Welcome back to your weekly roundup of everything that happened in Zenless Zone Zero, where we will cover everything that you missed inside and outside of the game. How did everyone's Remiel pulls go? I do hope that no matter how they went, they were better than mine, because unfortunately, someone put a curse on me to not only lose the 50-50 to Collider, but also lose the 75-25 to Fusion Compiler. So my polychrome situation is in a rather dire situation right now. Otherwise though, there is a lot to cover today, especially with some very interesting leaks regarding patch 3.2 and specifically CLARET. But first, starting off with the in-game news, starting this week, Operation Bagel will become available as a new alternative to running Holo Zero. So be sure to start working on that, as this will also be how you can unlock the extra copies of Pyroids for the Mindscape cinemas, as well as the upgrades for the signature engine. Then on Friday will be the return of one of the best events in the game, and that is the Snap Focus Showdown event, where you'll be able to take some stylish photos with tons of customization options even in combat, complete with some new features like the slow motion mode to help you get that exact frame that you're looking for. Also on Friday will be the regularly scheduled Shiyu defense reset. This time around the stage buffs will be as follows. For stage 1, if there are 2 anomaly agents in the squad, attribute anomaly damage will be increased by 10% and the whole squad will start off with 500 decibels. However, if the team consists of 3 anomaly agents, this is instead a 60% anomaly damage bonus and a start of 1500 decibels. So I hope you've been following up with all the anomaly shilling. For stage 2, agents ultimate and chain attack damage will be increased by 40%, and when a chain attack hits an enemy, their stun damage multiplier will be increased by 20% and their day's recovery will be slowed down by 15%. Lastly, stage 3 will increase the ice and the electric damage by 30%, and after an attack specialty agent uses an EX special attack, their crit damage will be increased by 30% for 20 seconds. Otherwise though, that is it for the in-game news, and if you are like me, and you are now broke in Polychrome, and are wondering how you'll be able to get enough pulls to be able to get CLARET later on in patch 3.2, why not try using U7Buy? A fast, safe, and affordable place to purchase top-ups for a bunch of different games, including of course Zenless Zone Zero. And there's no need to worry about the reliability. As you can see by the reviews of U7Buy over on Trustpilot, they are highly rated. U7Buy's Zenless Zone Zero top-up page lets you recharge instantly for a fraction of the price. You'll see the prices look similar to in-game at first, but once you hit buy now, the price drops at checkout to the actual discounted amount. You're paying less without even realizing it at first. And the process is simple. Just select your server, enter your UID, complete the payment, and the monochrome will be sent directly to your account in seconds. No other account information necessary. And if you want to save even more, you can also use my discount code Shanaha for another 8% off your purchase. So click the link in the description below and head on over to U7Buy and start saving today. Moving on to social media side of things though, firstly a happy birthday to Nekomata. I suppose her gift for her birthday was some buffs in the new patch. But happy birthday to her as well as anybody else who has a birthday in the coming week. And to help you keep track of those important dates like birthdays, why not make use of the free calendar wallpapers for the new month of August? Can you believe it's already August? Oh my goodness. This month, the character on display is of course Remiel. Both the desktop and the mobile version are free to download using the link in the description below. And while you're grabbing that, you can also grab some free version stickers featuring both Sigrid and Remiel too. Now, with it being a new patch, that also means that Twitch drops have been refreshed. So if you have your Hoyo account linked with your Twitch account, you can watch anyone streaming in the Zenless Zone Zero category for 2 hours and you'll earn some polychrome as well as a handful of upgrade materials. Then for those of you that are playing Zenless Zone Zero through Steam, if you stacked up enough Steam points, then you can exchange these for some Zenless Zone Zero cosmetics to customize your Steam profile, such as animated avatars, avatar frames, backgrounds, and stickers. Then over on Twitter, there is one new event called Remiel's Wanted Notice. By following the official account and selecting one of the responses in the link tweet in the description below, you'll stand a chance to win a Good Smile Company Nendoroid of either Bell or Weiss, or either a Bang Boo Beats series standee. And as for the last part of the social media section, I know it's probably not going to be relevant to anyone here, as this is a Japanese only collab, but I feel I just have to show it off, because look at this collaboration key visual between Zenless Zone Zero and the fashion marketplace Zozo Town. I mean, just look at how good everyone looks here. It's just yet another teaser for what we are going to be missing out on here in the West. And then most importantly though, moving on to the speculation zone. Although we've all been celebrating the new patch 3.1, at the same time, the betas for patch 3.2 have been underway and there are some very interesting new discoveries, specifically revolving around CLARET and ROXY, both of whom have had their animations revealed. But most notably is their class types. ROXY is going to be a wind stunner, so our second wind agent. Meanwhile, CLARET is going to be an electric armor agent. Yes, that's right. We are getting a new class type. The one thing that I mentioned last week that I was really hoping we were not going to get, because this is now going to be 3 patches in a row where the headline agent is some sort of breaking the game by introducing a whole bunch of new stuff type of agent. In 3.0, it was Velina being our first wind agent. 3.1 was Remiel and her whole Lumen shenanigans. And now in patch 3.2, it's going to be CLARET introducing the new Armorer class. Now, because it is still very early on in the beta, exact details on both CLARET and ROXY's kits are not yet set in stone, so we won't go into detail about that just yet. What we can talk about though, in the meantime, are the new mechanics revolving around the Armorer class. Firstly, I hope you are ready for yet another build-up gauge to keep track of, and that is for Gash as well as Maim. As armored agents attack enemies, they build up Gash, and similar to how Remiel can sort of store points on an enemy can have a maximum of 3 Gash stacks on them at a time. Armored agents can then use specific attacks against these enemies to consume a Gash stack in order to trigger the Maim effect. Honestly, it's actually very similar to Remiel and her Lumen stacks. It's just that now there's a build-up gauge to them and the maximum is only 3. Now, as for what Maim does, that is just currently another separate instance of damage. At least as far as we know, with CLARET being the only one to go off of. Maybe future armored agents will have something different for the Maim effect, but as it stands right now, when CLARET maims an enemy, it's just extra damage. However, CLARET does allow stun agents on the team to also trigger the Maim with their special or the EX special attacks. And if they do this, it will trigger a quick assist back to CLARET while also providing a team-wide buff. So far, it would appear that armored agents will just have this new mechanic to build up Gash and trigger Maim for bonus damage and effects. Again, honestly, very similar to Remiel and her Lumen points, where you build up stacks and then use an anomaly to trigger them to reharmonize for extra damage, which also then provides a buff to Remiel in the form of giving her stacks for her special animation attack and her held basic attack. Of course, as more armored agents come out though, this will be an interesting thing to keep an eye out for, as it might change. But then the other new thing specific to armored agents is the double crit possibility, which in-game is currently referred to as laceration damage. Like we theorized last week, this is when you have over a 100% crit rate, where once the first critical hit check succeeds, based on your crit rate up to 100%, a second critical hit check is taken into consideration using the excess above 100%. So in other words, say you have 150% crit rate, you'll get a regular crit of course, but then there is a 50% chance for that attack to be a laceration crit, which will be visually different as you'll see it with an attack damage number with 3 exclamation points as opposed to just 2. To adjust for these bonus crits though, both the regular and the laceration damage multipliers for armored agents now also take into account a special laceration damage multiplier instead. And as you could probably have guessed it from the defense increases on the CLARET disc set, much like rupture damage scaling off of something else, armored agents damage scales off of defense. Now honestly, when it comes to these new armored agents, don't get me wrong, the whole Gash and Maim component sounds pretty cool, albeit a bit annoying because this is just another new visual thing to keep track of, more clutter on screen. Remember towards the end of Season 1 when the devs mentioned that they wanted to increase visual clarity to the game? Meanwhile, if you've tried Remiel and Velina on a team against that newest boss in Deadly Assault, we both know we could not tell what was going on in that fight. But that's still okay though, maybe they can find a better way to visually represent it, maybe clean up the UI or something like that. But as for the laceration crits though, sure, it looks cool on paper, but another way that you could think of this is that imagine you now need 100% crit rate at a bare minimum to make them function, and the laceration crit is the real base crit damage. Sure, you could think of it as, oh, but you know, we can do double crits now. If everything's a crit, is it really a crit, right? These agents will probably be tuned in such a way that you're expected to have at least 100% crit rate to have them be like a regular base level attacker that, you know, didn't have this whole possibility of double critting. Another way to think of it is like, imagine if you take a regular attacker that we have currently, and imagine that if they don't get a critical hit, aside from of course doing less damage from not getting critical hit, they actually did further reduced damage, like the enemy resisted them for not critting. That would kind of suck, wouldn't it? So honestly, I'm not that excited about this specific change. It's kind of like just the same thing we've always known, where you want to crit as much as possible, but just wrapped in a different paper. Now, instead of, you know, just aiming for about 80%-ish crit rate on a regular attacker, it's just we have to aim for 180 now to get kind of the same effect probably. But again though, this is all still very early stages of the beta, and we also only really have one armor agent so far to really base our opinions off of with CLARET. So I do hope that this actually becomes a relevant class though, unlike Rupture where it's basically just Yishen, who is lucky enough to be a Void Hunter so she can still stay relevant. But of course, time will tell though. Otherwise, that is everything that happened this week. If you made it to the end of the video, leaving a like as well as commenting and subscribing would be greatly appreciated. But until next time, bye bye!